I saw Yvette in the chat. You guys saw that?
No, I didn't see her.
She was saying, man, I was beginning to wonder if something happened. We were a little late today. Oh, my goodness. Oh, my goodness. Listen, good afternoon, gentlemen. Happy Sabbath. Happy end of February. All of that good stuff. How have you guys been this week, man?
Well, you know what? Yeah. This week, go ahead, Raj.
No, go ahead.
All right. No, you go ahead, man.
I've been fine. I'm blessed. Let me say it like that. I've been blessed.
We're so kind today. No, let me just say this. February was a blessing. We had our Black History spotlight all throughout these weeks, and I think my church, they've done an excellent job. We highlighted different people who've made a significant contribution towards freedom, equality, and so we're blessed. February was a blessing, man.
Hey, yeah.
Excellent. I have to say this week has been, it was a tough week. We had meetings. I was in meetings all day, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. But it was good to get through. And we're so glad that God has blessed us. And we're glad to be here on this Sabbath morning. This morning, I had to get up early this morning. I was in London. With this new way of preaching via the internet. So we went to London, preached for the Grace Community Church, and it was good to see some folks there, but it was real early this morning. So it's been an interesting morning.
Hey, look, my February, as I said, I'm blessed. I'm blessed, but I know many of you know, earlier in the end of December, my father was in a terrible car accident. And I have been up in Georgia most of this time, and then the last 3 weekends I'm back coming down here, and we had to admit him to the hospital again this week, and it's not looking very good right now. So I know many of you, some of you have been aware of that, and you have been praying, and I just want to solicit the rest of your prayers on behalf of Elder O.H. Paul, who is my father. And just that the Lord's will be done. So I appreciate that so much on behalf of the PRT family. Thank you.
Yes. Definitely praying for Pastor Paul and the family there. He holds a special place in my heart. We were there at Mount Sinai together, and
that's right.
Baptized, man.
Yeah.
So
that's right.
Keep him up in prayer. Definitely.
Absolutely. Well, look, gentlemen, what's on the table for today? What do we got going on today? Wait, hold on. Last week. Last week.
Let's go last week.
Yeah. Whoo.
How did you jump over last week?
Calvin B. Rock. Doctor was in the house last week, everybody. Listen, if you missed last week, we need you to do two things. We need you to go to the YouTube channel, find last week's video. They're up there by dates. I think there's a date with it. It's, what was the title of it? I don't remember what the title was, but just look for his name, Calvin B. Rock.
A conversation with Dr. Calvin B. Rock.
Absolutely. So check that out. Subscribe. Somebody mentioned it earlier, but subscribe to the YouTube channel. Click the little bell. Make sure that you get notice when we go live, et cetera, et cetera. So go ahead and do that. But what did you guys think last week? What was your takeaway?
Listen, well, let me just say this. We asked a question at the end of the program last week. Actually, Dr. Rock asked the question, and a lot of people responded to it. The answer, I believe, was the gospel of expediency. I think that was the answer.
That's
but
right.
A lot of people responded. The giveaway, right? And we had so many people that wanted a book. We said we're going to give 3 away, and so I don't know if we'll probably get those names out to you sometime. But we do have some winners.
I got to set that record straight. If you were missed last week, Dr. Henry solicited Pastor Wade for them to give away 2 books. And I was like, nah, y'all can't leave me out. I want to give, so that's how we got to 3. I want to set that record straight, that I wanted to give away a book as well. But we had 17 by the end of the show. Yes. We had 17 of you who got that right. So we were trying to figure out how we're going to dice those 3 books up into 17 parts.
But I think we got an answer, Pastor Wade. I mean, I think we had one of our sponsors. Go ahead.
One of our sponsors stepped up to the plate and said they would help, and we were just blown away by that. And Dr. Rock said he would help. So we are right now making sure that we count the beans right.
Yeah.
And we have everything in order. So you should be, we thought we would have gotten that information out this week, but you will know within the next week that you were chosen. We need to get your addresses. Our production assistant is going to help us with that, and we'll get the gifts out to you within the week. So you should get it before the end of next week or before the end of the following week. So
and listen,
congratulations.
Yes, congratulations. But listen, let's give that sponsor some love, because that was huge.
Yes.
That was Brad Forbes at Advent Source. Stepped up to the plate. Many of you may be familiar with Advent Source. Brad was a guest on the show not too long ago. And we just want to send some love his way for stepping up and volunteering to add 3 more to that number. So thank you so much to Advent Source and to Brad Forbes. All right, so gotta watch it. We're losing time because I'm anxious to get into what we got today. So, Dr. Henry, Roger, somebody tell me what's on the table today.
Before we say what's on the table, Pastor Bob, we want people to share.
Oh,
Listen, if you're right now, just share this program with some of your friends. This is going to be a game changer. This one right here is going to be a game changer. So you want to make sure that you share this feed with your friends. You will not be disappointed.
Okay, by the end of the day, let's see if we can do this. I'd like to see, can we come up with a number of shares that we'd like to see? We typically can see up to about 70 or so on a regular week, 70 shares. How many do we want today, guys?
Let's go for 100. Let's go. Let's jump right in.
I was going to say 200.
I'm with Raj, man. Listen.
Come on.
I'm with Raj, man. Listen.
Each of you share 2 times. We're already getting close. All right. Share it twice. Everybody share it twice. Share it to your own page. Share it to somebody else's page. Tag somebody. Because what's on the table today, Pastor Roger Wade, is...
Man, I tell you, we thought we will end Black History Month celebrating not just someone from the past, but someone who is doing it now.
Yes.
We looked at a particular new concept in the way we connect with people, called a group called creatives. And so we are today going to be talking to one of our Adventist creatives, or actually 2 Adventist creatives, 2 young adults who are taking on a unique way of telling the story about the Black church.
All right. So who are they, Dr. Henry?
Listen, we are just blessed to have some of the brightest minds in our church. These are creative individuals. We have Rafiq, who is a writer, filmmaker, CEO of a production company. Yes, sir. We have the CEO in the house. Hey, we're going to talk about that. Then we have Joe, who is a producer, managing director, Stage 10 Media. Listen, we have them on the listen. If you have some young people here today, make sure, listen, I want you to share, and share, because this is the program.
Can I bring them on?
Can I bring them on?
Can we bring them on? I can bring them on?
Bring them on.
Here they go. Here we go. Wait, are we there? There we go.
There you go.
Hey. All right, gentlemen, welcome. We are excited to have you with us today as we begin this dive into Let the Church Say, and people are going to get a little understanding of what that's about. But just before we start, we're going to go ahead and ask Dr. Henry to start us off with a word of prayer before we jump in today. Dr. Henry.
Let us pray. Father, what a wonderful month you have given us so we can celebrate the achievements of our pioneers and also of those who are here currently that are making a difference in our society. We ask, God, that this program will be of benefit, Lord, that we will be motivated so that we can do more to spread this gospel in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. All right. So Rafiq and Joe, we didn't read your whole bio. We didn't give the whole, everything. So what we do to kind of make up for that is I'm going to give each of you about 49.7 seconds to just say whatever you want to say. Tell us to fill in some of those gaps there. I don't know if you just want to shout out grandma or mom or whoever, or Ray and them, whatever it is you need to do. Just go ahead. You can begin. We're going to start with Rafiq. The time is yours. Just to shout out.
Yeah, my name is Rafiq Jordan Abali. I'm the writer and director of Let the Church Say. My mom is from Trelawney, Jamaica. My dad is from Ghana. And I just think God has blessed me with a very interesting perspective on race, culture, and religion.
Awesome. Joe, time is yours, man. I think Rafiq left some time on the table, so you can.
I'll take it. My name is Joe Howell. I am a producer and the managing director of my production company called Stage 10 Media. I have been in the entertainment business for quite some time, and an Adventist in the entertainment business for over 15 years. And it's been, my family goes all the way back to New York. I'm originally from New York, so that's where I knew Pastor Wade from as well. So I'm excited to be here today to talk about this film project, Let the Church Say.
All right. Roger?
Oh, no, Dr. Henry, you begin.
Oh, Dr. Henry,
okay. Well, listen, let's get into it. Look, let's start off with the first question. I mean, you're in the entertainment business. And I could imagine in the church, there might have been some pushback when you first even mentioned the idea. Can you elaborate a little bit on that? How can a church person be in the entertainment business? Talk to us.
Wow, I'll start, and Rafiq can probably speak to it as well. I started out, of course, in the church in doing music. My mother was the organist for White Plains SDA Church for over 40 years. And of course, I grew up singing in church. That was it. I sang in groups, went to Oakwood College, sang in school. And from there, I realized that I had to expand at that time, especially at that time, I expand outside of our circles to learn some of the techniques and skills that I thought I needed to be successful in entertainment. And so from there, I actually signed on with Polygram Universal as a producer and writer and worked in both areas. But one of the things that I found challenging was being a Sabbath keeper meant I had to turn down a lot of opportunities. And I had to say, look, I can't do this, I can't do that, because if it conflicted with my beliefs, I just wasn't going to do it. And so it made sense to, of course, form my own production company so that we would have control over the projects and the time frames and the schedules that we wanted to do.
Wow.
Amen. I love it. Yes. Rafiq, tell me about this balance.
I think that was great, Joe. I feel like I grew up as a creative, as a young man, just always wanting to create something special. I started off doing music as well, similar to Joe. Music producer, kind of just making my own beats and stuff. But eventually I felt like I wanted to upgrade to a higher craft, if you will. So I wanted to do something like filmmaking, because I felt like it encompassed many different aspects of the creative world. And what I recognized, because I grew up in Hamden, Connecticut, eventually I moved to West Palm Beach, Florida, is that even in filmmaking, there are, dedicated Christians who are staying, true to their values and morals. And all the opportunities that God opened up for me, one of the first sets I ever worked on was for a friend of mine that went to Palm Beach International. And right before he started shooting, we prayed on the set. And I was like, I didn't know you could do that. Wow. But, that opportunity opened up my mind to see, there is such thing as a combination of creativity and the gospel. And I feel like that's a very important place where we can start to spread the gospel and get people engaged.
Amen. Wow. Listen, I'm listening to your responses, both of your response from this, and I'm like, wow, man, we are so blessed to have people like you who are at the forefront, being creative for Jesus. And we got some questions here we want to ask you, but I want to just tell all the viewers out there, listen, we praise God for these brothers, man. These are brothers that are out there, creative, spreading the gospel in different ways. Listen, supports, we got to support you all the way. Now, listen, we're here talking about this project, right? And we're going to get into that a little deeper. Tell me, you had this project out there. What inspired you to even create this project that we're going to talk about today? Is the Black church dead? What? Tell me a little bit about what inspired you to do this.
Yeah. So as I said earlier, I'm a person that's very passionate about three things: race, culture, and religion. And I'm always interested to find the connections between those two things and those three things, and ask questions about why we do the things we do, right? And I remember that the idea for this project came about actually when I was in church. I was in Atlanta Berean SDA Church more than a year ago now, and there was a young lady who came up to the stage to sing for special music, and in the middle of the song, she started to break down and cry. And I just remember a wave of support and encouragement come from what seemed like the entire congregation. You hear people saying, "It's all right," and "Go on." And
Yes,
I
sir.
felt like even though not all of us knew exactly what was going on in her life, I felt like we all knew why she was crying, in the sense of we all have been in that place of overwhelming gratitude and, dealing with sorrow, and that bringing you to a place of praise. And in that moment, it made me think, one, I love Black people. I love church. I love the way we praise. I love the way we worship. But it also made me think, what is the connection there? How does the church experience influence the way we treat each other outside of the church? How has the church, something that's been here for years, impact in our entire society and African American culture? So that set me on a rabbit hole to just doing a lot of research. And in the midst of that, there were some serious questions that came up as well, like, the church's current state, and things like social justice and the pandemic, and poverty and all of those things. And one of those questions was, is the Black church dead? And that kind of came about. I'm not the first one to ask that question, right? There's different articles and conversations that people have had, but I do feel like in some of the personal conversations I've had, there seems to be a subconscious thought of people feeling like there's something wrong with the church, that we could be doing more, that we could be getting more involved. So that kind of sent me on this journey to, all right, well, what can we be doing? What is our role in the things that plague society? And how can we grow for the future?
Yeah, I wonder, Dr. Henry, it almost feels like we're being a little clandestine here when it comes to, we've said the project, how'd you come up, but we haven't really kind of said exactly. I think our audience might be guessing, what is it? What is the project? What are we talking about? So when they saw in the title screen, "Let the Church Say," they've heard us ask the question, is the Black church dead? They know that you're in the film industry. What is it that we're talking about, gentlemen? What's the project? What is it? Just break that open for us.
Yeah, give us the what, right?
The what? Yeah. So the what of this, and that's a great question to actually kind of take a broader scope to it. The project is actually a documentary film. And when we look at the mediums to communicate to our audience or people who want to learn more about a particular subject, the documentary is the best route to go. And so Rafiq had called me up and he said, "Hey, Joe, we've worked together before." He said, "Joe, I've got this great idea. The Lord is speaking to me." And I got it right away. I understood it right away. Being someone who grew up in the Black church myself, both of us grew up in the Black church. So I got it right away, and I said, well, look, let's start looking at how we can create this documentary, which would chronicle the questions that were being asked. Like you said, like Rafiq said, not only by our church denomination, but other denominations. So this particular documentary film goes very broad in terms of who we're speaking to and the audience that we want to reach. And so right now it's in production. Right now we've done our principal photography, and we're in post-production right now, editing the final version of the film that will be released a little later.
Wow. So I got to throw this out there again, and my apologies, but so many of us have just seen a similar documentary on the Black church that was at PBS. PBS just put out. Fascinating. I've watched like the first one, almost through the first one at this point. So it's basically something like that, right? You're gonna be, it's in post-production. So this is gonna be distributed in the Adventist book centers, at camp meetings, and that kind of stuff. What are we looking at? How are we trying to get this out? Who are we trying to get this out to?
Well, we're trying to get it out to the broadest audience possible. So Gates, who produced the other project that's on PBS, is currently completed his project, and we didn't find out about that project until we were well into our filming. So for the most part, we did see an overlap in our production schedule and what we found out that PBS was putting out this project. But there is a difference in the project, I think, and Rafiq can speak a little bit more to the differences. We're focusing a little bit more on all aspects of the church itself in terms of how it affects our culture, how it affects our music, how it affects, like you mentioned, social justice, how it affects our lifestyle. And our goal is to actually do a much larger, broader series of multiple episodes that are going to be ongoing and broadcast through major outlets. So we're already speaking to or looking at which outlets we can look at in terms of broadcasting this final version of the short film and the potential series. And of course, we certainly want to make it available to everyone, not just our Adventist distribution centers. But if it can get to Hulu, or if it can get to BET, or if it can get to Netflix, that's great. So we have a lot of work to do there to work on those aspects. But we have high aspirations, and we've already gotten some really good feedback that we will be able to reach those distribution outlets.
Awesome.
I think it's going to be an exciting documentary. Definitely exciting. So let me ask a question on this. So when is this project set to be released? I think you said it, but I just want to make sure I'm hearing right. When are you going to release it? When do you think that date will be?
So I'll take that one, Joe. Yeah, we're planning on releasing it sometime this year. Right now, we're in the post-production process, and our perspective where it's going right now is it should be done by the end of March. So hopefully we can start broadcasting and getting out, I would say, as early as summer. But there are some different technical things that affect that. So
Rafiq, Joe mentioned that there were some differences in what Gates did and what you're doing. After looking at what Gates did on the PBS program, I thought it did well. Matter of fact, what we heard from Dr. Rock last week actually informed me in what I was seeing in Gates's rendition of the Black Church. So I was like, wow, look how that fit together. And I haven't seen your project yet. We are looking forward to viewing it. But what was some of the what would you say would be some of the differences between what Gates did and how he treated the subject and what you're planning to do?
Yeah, I want to start off by saying I think it's awesome that this story is even being brought to the forefront at this time, and the fact that both Gates and I are in a position where we want to uplift unsung heroes like the Black church and how it's affected African American community. Where I think there's differences between us is one of them. I'm not an academic, right? So my perspective as a filmmaker is to tell a compelling story, and I'm coming at it from a perspective that might have more of a youthful perspective. Obviously, I mean, I don't want to guess his age, but there's several decades between me and uh, uh, Gates. So, but yeah, we're trying to make this as youthful and as real as possible because this this film started, centered on my personal perspective, and the film does follow my perspective as a church member who is analyzing and learning more about the Black church. And I'm sure there's a lot of individuals like me who are my age who have questions. And I really want for people to watch this film and see themselves, see whether you're inside the church or not. We interviewed several people who are activists. Some of them are gospel artists or pastors. Some people that you would probably never hear from otherwise. These individuals have a very unique perspective and a very powerful voice. And I think what we're going to do is tell the story from a perspective that is going to engage a different audience. And I think that's really important.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
listen, as you're explaining the direction that you're going, I'm excited about it because when I was watching the PBS series, I was listening to John Legend, who mentioned that, he is spiritual, but he did also mention in his conversation with Gates that it appears, and he didn't say in these words, but that the church is now, I want to say irrelevant, but it's not speaking towards the social issues like it used to.
Yeah.
So getting more
Yeah.
information on that from the maybe even younger generations on their perspective of the church, seeing even these other artists that are out there, their perspective on the church and how the church has shaped them would be very interesting. And I believe that your documentary, without knowing exactly you don't even have me on your committee, man. Let me get on the committee.
I know. I was sitting there thinking, man, can I get a cameo? Can I get a walk by in the background? Something. I walk the dog.
Yeah, the little eye.
It's in post production. You're too late.
Hey, you can
But
do
what
stuff in post. You can add stuff in post.
We can
what
Photoshop you in.
There you go.
My best side, right? No, but what I'm thinking though is that with your documentary, I think where your project will go, where Gates, it was a fabulous job they did. I mean, they even talked a little bit about how the Black church impacted politics, but they didn't go really into it. They didn't really talk about like the Jimmy Carter and Ronald Reagan and all those other, how did the Black church really impacted the politics. But I think with your documentary, and I'm looking forward to it, is going to motivate people. Is going to motivate those individuals. I'm hoping that are not engaged in church to be engaged in church and make it relevant. Let's make it relevant. Let the church speak to social issues like Jesus. You know what I mean? Let's do that. So just excited about it.
Can I comment on that really quick? Because I think that was so important what you just said. And that was part of the reason why we named it Let the Church Say, right? We see it as a call to action. I think sometimes when we go through Black History Month or we look at the civil rights movement or anything like that, we start to, make icons of, Martin Luther King and things like these other individuals as if they weren't ordinary people as well. As if we as ordinary church members can't make a large impact on our society as well. And I think that's part of what we're trying to do with Let the Church Say. Get everyone involved in bringing the gospel to the world.
Hey, listen, the two of y'all represent some of the younger, relevant minds that we have in our church. And I think Dr. Henry said it great, that the voice that we will hear from your project will help us to look at it from a more relevant perspective. My quick question to you here is, do you feel that the subject matter is relevant? Do you feel that the subject matter is relevant to people like you?
Yeah, I can speak to that first.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Oh, go ahead, Rafi.
No, go ahead,
he
Joe.
said for you to go ahead.
Okay. No, absolutely. I definitely feel like this is something that we need to hear from and hear about. So the subject matters is so broad that we realize that it's very difficult to cover every aspect of it in even a documentary film, or even in the two-part series that Dr. Gates is doing. So our goal is actually to expand it to a series that would allow us to go in detail into each of the aspects that affect our church. Number one, I saw a question pop up on the screen about, is this just about the Adventist church? And it's more than just the Adventist church. It is the church at large, the Black church at large, and then of course we speak to denominations. So denominationally, there is a lot of questions around that as well. So are different denominations experiencing different impacts to whether the church is touching the society and the young people that are that they would like to reach? And then we talked to people who don't go to church, regularly. We want to hear from them too. Is that something that, what is the church to you? You don't go regularly. What does it mean? But they may still be active in social justice. They may be still active in their community, but they may have found other outlets for that. So there's a lot there. It goes really, really deep. And as Rafiq mentioned, the title allows us to go into many, many different areas of what the church is saying at this time and the relevancy to our society now.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting and it pertains to that comment or that question that you just addressed, Joe. I thought it was interesting in Gates' documentary that he brought out that in that early American church or religious setting, that it was the Methodist church that many of them were at the forefront of the abolitionist movement, and in the evangelical movement that was moving towards bringing Christianity to the slaves. It is also interesting to note that when you study the development and the early Adventist pioneers, that the majority of them were Methodists. They came out of that Methodist tradition. And so when you look at the development of the early Adventist church, although you may not see primary figures that were Black at the very beginning, keep in mind, these were the early Adventist pioneers were social justice warriors. They were steeped and thick in the abolitionist movement at the time. And so this Adventist church, should it appeal to Black? Yes. I mean, that was the part of the draw, is that people were saying, hey, here are some people that with this Christianity stuff, they are concerned about some real world stuff. And they weren't just saying that these are the people in that movement that are concerned about real world stuff that's affecting me. They were able to go to scripture and say, not only are we concerned, we're concerned because God is concerned about the stuff that's happening in the world right now at this time.
I like that. Let me just add this to Pastor Paul. The book Protest and Progress. I mean, if the people on the line right now, if you don't have it, you need to get it. But it mentions the church on how we were very active, in the community. But then there was a shift that took place, and a shift so that even those who marched there to hear the I Have a Dream speech were criticized by the church. And so we need to shift that thing back, right? We got to shift it back to where we started, and that was addressing social issues. If a church does not address social issues, then the question I have, is that church relevant? So so your project, powerful. I think you have a clip. Are we ready for that clip, Raj? I think we're ready for the clip. Are we ready?
We can start with the first clip. Yeah.
Let's start with the first clip.
Yeah, let's set that first clip up.
Here we go.
I believe the church, in regards to having the voice of morality for the Black community and the racial tension in America, I believe they still have it, but it's not amplified.
Shut it down! If we don't get it, shut it down!
Black Lives Matter, that movement is amplified.
Until we get it,
shut it down! If you talk about the 50s, yes, the church had it. Now it's weakened because as a church, we're not supposed to talk about social issues. Despite what the state says about separation between state and church, we're supposed to talk about that because Jesus himself was an activist.
Wow. Nice.
Jesus was an activist. So Rafiq, as you were pulling these images together, and as you were setting out, you wrote pretty much the script as to what the project is going to end up. You asked a question which we kind of brushed over, and one of our viewers did ask this question: is the Black church dead? Did you get an answer to that?
I believe I'm still in the process of getting a clear answer to that question. But I think if anything, what I've learned, the Black church isn't just one monolithic thing, right? There are churches that are very much vibrant and doing a great work, and there are some that could be doing more.
I want to add to that. We got so many different types of answers to the question because and I want to share a little bit of who we interviewed that will give you an idea of the type of answers that we got. We were fortunate to get the Reverend Dr. Fry Brown, who is the professor of religion at Emory University here in Atlanta, very well respected. We also spoke to Dr. Rose of the NAACP and Chris Bruce of the ACLU. So we covered a lot of different aspects of who we spoke to, in addition to speaking to the entertainers from their perspective in the church. That allowed us to get a wide scope of answers to that question. And that's what we're excited to share with the answers to the question, and not only the answer to the question, but why they feel it's relevant to today. So it's been a great journey to speak to the number of interviewees that we talked to, over 20, and then of course speaking to pastors who can give us that perspective as well. So it's been a great information, and we're excited about even the next chapter of this and expanding the conversation to a broader group of interviewees.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I was looking at this comment. It says, yes, even though I'm glad you're addressing, this is from Yvette, addressing this issue, I think it depends on the individual church. Some churches are more involved than others, and we go outside the walls of the church. They are involved, went away, come back. They are involved in the peaceful demonstrations. We are out there, but admittedly slowed down by this pandemic. So I think that was in response to, is the Black church dead? And it sounds like she's saying, which Black church? Is it this one over here, or is it this one over here? And that might be a very interesting thing to discover as well. When we say the Black church, we know there's no organization that is the Black church. It's multi-denominational, right, each within its own niche. And yet, in spite of that, in the early, particularly during the civil rights movement, there was this thing, it seemed, where people thought of, it didn't matter if it was a Black Catholic church or a Black Baptist church or a Black Pentecostal church, that everybody all of those Black churches were on the same page when it came to pursuing, and if not all of them, and at least most of them, on the same page when it came to pursuing equity, when it came to pursuing advancement in the Black community. Does there seem, from what you have picked up in your shooting and in your interviews, does it seem that the Black church still has that, any central thing that the Black church can unify around today? like we may have in the past?
I think there's a lot for us to unify around.
Wow. I think that's a great question. Go ahead, Joe.
Yes, so
Go ahead,
I'll
Joe.
start and then I'll turn it over to Rafiq. But one of the things that I'll give two answers to the question. One specifically around our Adventist church. The shirt I'm wearing right now is called I Am. And here in Atlanta, the pastors of the South Atlantic Conference got together, some of the pastors, and said, we probably need to speak up to what we feel is going on, especially with what was happening in Atlanta at the time. And so we got together at West End Church was one of our meeting points. And throughout the month of June, the pastors from the conference came together with the men of the conference. We had these shirts printed up and we went out into the community and were part of the peaceful conversations that were going on. And that happened for 4 weeks in the month of June. And that was directly speaking to our Adventist church in our area. Now, of course, there are bigger, broader conversations going on. And I think last year was probably a pivotal point for Black churches to step up and say, what is happening? Because you had other organizations like Black Lives Matter is one that were coming to the community and responding to the call for at least what was happening in social justice. So those things have not stopped. We have not seen a total shift in the activities that go around in our Black community. They're still there. There is a political shift when you look at what's happened with the presidential race, but our community still needs that support. So I think it's very important to say, okay, yes, we saw a little spike in what was happening with social justice in 2020, but there's still many areas for us to rally around in 2021. And then other areas around what we can do from a day-to-day perspective in our churches and for the needs of those in our community that are outside of social justice needs.
All right, good. Rafiq, anything?
Rafiq?
Yeah, and to comment on what you said, as far as that unity, right? I heard someone say that suffering brings solidarity, and I think as we go back through history, I don't think it's deniable that Black people have suffered here in America, and I think there was times where for a lot of people it was universal, and I believe that created a lot of solidarity amongst individuals and amongst churches because we were all experiencing something that we felt like we either needed to do something about or we needed to seek God for. I believe that because of the results of the civil rights movement and Black people receiving more freedom in different areas, in some ways we've become kind of disjointed. And I'm paraphrasing because these are not my original thoughts, but people have different perspectives. Some people who are Black don't feel like they're being persecuted, don't feel like they're being oppressed, don't feel like Black people are suffering at all. And I think what we can rally around is the gospel. I heard a pastor say once, churches should be at the forefront of every social issue because unlike maybe the world or other people, we believe that every individual was made in the image of God. And that belief is enough to rally us to all rally around and get out there and do work within the community to bless other people. So to answer your question, I think that is it. If you're part of the Black church, that usually means that you're of African descent and that you hold to Christianity, right? Well, Christianity preaches helping the least of these, and I think that's what we can rally around.
Yeah, that's so interesting because I think so much of and you can Google Black Church on YouTube and see this condescension towards the black church, because there are many who feel, outside of having that single rallying point, the black church has turned into who can get their best hoop on, which pastor, you know, can get the biggest jet or the nicest car or whatever. And so it's moved from a social gospel to a social financial type of mechanism to simply make money. And so people have thought that the black church has lost its power, it's lost its impact, because the black community looks at the black church as simply a farce. It's just a whole bunch of hooping and hollering, full of, what's the old English authors say, sound and fury signifying nothing. And so you've got a whole lot of people in the black community who just have no respect and no trust for the black church because of what in their mindset the black church has become. And perhaps it's because, as you stated, Rafiq, maybe we've stepped away too far from simply the proclamation of the gospel, including its social aspects.
Absolutely.
As you were talking, Pastor Paul, as you were talking, Pastor Paul, I was thinking about that series again that Gates produced, and they talked about Pastor Ike. He was talking about money, 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 and the prosperity doctrine. So you're exactly right that a lot of people are turned off by that. By the way, before you speak on and respond to this, Rafiq, we just want to let our listening audience know and our viewing audience know that we are talking with some of the greatest minds here in the church. We're talking with these creators about their project. Let the church say. And there's some awesome principles that are coming from this, and you definitely want to support these gentlemen as they continue with this project. It's going to be out, and when it comes out, we got to really rally behind them and support it. Okay, Rafiq, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to add, there's also a lot of smaller storefront churches that unfortunately don't get the big media and, you know, mainstream attention. These smaller churches that are held out of a small space or maybe somebody's home, where it's not about the money or anything like that. It's literally about just being the hands and feet of Jesus. And I feel like a project like this emphasizes those unsung heroes, as well as has a serious conversation about the churches that are in the mainstream.
Oh man, there's some hot comments going on in the chat, man. I looked at that. Hey, we need Rafiq and Joel to address that, man.
But listen, let me switch the conversation just a little bit here. I called y'all creatives. That's the new term that some of us in the leadership of the Adventist Church in particular want to say to our young adults. They are creatives. Creatives are those who create things. You are filmmakers. There are those who create poetry, those who create music, things like that. But there are some creatives who are listening today or that will listen. What is the process to bring an idea like this, like what you have, to reality? What you know, you talked about having a dream. I mean, Joe articulate the fact that he wanted to be in the business, couldn't really get in there because of the Sabbath, and decided to create his own production company. Rafiq, you were excited about just telling the story, making it come alive. What is the process to bring an idea to reality to these creatives that we hear today?
I'll start, Joe, and maybe you can hop in. I think one of the first things is you can't do it by yourself. I think that is so important. I reached out to Joe because I met him at West End SDA Church, and we talked briefly about, you know, both being interested in film. And I realized this was not a story that I could tell without him. And as we went on, we continued to connect with other people who had different perspectives and different skill sets. And that helped us bring this project to life. So to answer your question, as far as like what is the process like? I mean, it takes a lot of communication. It takes a lot of trust. I have to trust that the people that God has brought into my life care about this project as much as I do, and that we're all working towards the same goal. And I think it just takes determination and a lot of what's the word? Dedication. I'm looking for. I think especially we filmed this entire project during the pandemic, right? So that made things very difficult as far as safety procedures and all that. We had to limit our crew size, and there was a lot of obstacles that we had to overcome. But what it all came back to is trusting the fact that God gave us something that was important. And he has been faithful throughout this entire process. And I feel like it was incredible because of it.
Yeah, I'll just add a little bit to that. But what Rafiq said is right, spot on. One of the things that I would advise young creatives and people who are interested in the creative space is to be good at your craft. When Rafiq called me about this project, it was a no-brainer for me because he's a really good writer and a really good director and cinematographer. So it made sense for me to say, wow, I definitely want to work with Rafiq because he's good at what he does. And that's important. So young creatives who are, whether it's music, whether it's poetry, whether it's photography, whether it's filmmaking, or whether it's any creative art or drawing, focus on being very good at that, because that's going to get you to the next level. It's important to also let our young people know that there are opportunities within the church. One of the reasons why I had to kind of go, I want to say outside the church at that time, this is 20 years ago, was because there wasn't many opportunities within the church. So I was able to work with, other organizations and did well with that. I was successful, did very well in those spaces, but also realized that we need to foster our young people, provide opportunities for them so that they don't feel that they're stifled. And that's very important, Pastor Wade, that we let the young people know that there's opportunities for them to be creative within the church, and they can be successful with and still be Christ-like and following Christ in their efforts.
So you talked about being good at your craft. What are some of the things? What training did you all take to get to this point? Did you go to film school, Rafiq? Joe, was there something special you went to get to this point? What was it that prepared you, trained you to be good at your craft?
YouTube, university.
Yeah, no, I did go to film school. I went to Savannah College of Art and Design, and it was a great experience for me. Just, I think there's something really powerful about being in a room of other creatives. I think the first thing you learn is that you're not the most creative in the world. And I feel like sometimes as creatives, we feel that way. We feel like, oh, I've got an idea and it's better than anybody else's idea. But you step into a room with other creatives and you realize that everyone has something special. And really what they teach you in film school is how to stick to it, how to bring your vision to reality. So that was kind of my process of getting ready, going to film school and studying that way. And as well, you mentioned YouTube. YouTube is such a great teacher in this day and age, just about anything that you can learn. I know filmmakers who never went to film school, but literally watched everything that they learned on YouTube and have gone on to have successful careers.
Oh, so YouTube University is real.
It's real.
It's real.
I went to school for technology, so that's where I started out my time in technology, and I started doing internships. One of the things that I came up with is actually just going out and doing it. My first internship was with a production studio in New York City, and of course working with studios like the Hit Factory, Sony Studios, and many different recording studios in New York City. And actually, I even interned at a studio in Huntsville, Alabama, when I first was going to school there. and learned a lot during that time frame. And those internships turned into working in the industry. And working in the industry, of course, doing it is very important in terms of getting your skill right, because you have to bring a certain level of excellence to be considered a professional. You know, there's a lot of people who want to do it, but they don't have, unfortunately, have not taken the time to hone that craft, whether that be doing it in the field or going to school for it. It's very important to focus on that. So that's how I got my start in working and doing internships. And so I'm the filmmaker who goes, I'm the no film school filmmaker. Rafiq is the film school maker. And then I think we bring a different aspect to the filmmaking process.
I would imagine that seeing that we went into the pandemic and a lot of our churches went online, we have a lot of budding filmmakers because there are a lot of people who became cameramen and camera women to help bring churches online. So that's exciting to know. But let me hone this into the Adventist Church. Does the Adventist Church, the Seventh-day Adventist Church, provide opportunities? You kind of alluded to this, for creative to produce projects such as Let the Church Say.
Yes, I could. I think there's so many opportunities, to the point, even what you mentioned there in our churches. And this pandemic is going to create a lot of opportunities for creatives to come in and do work on shows like this show, and behind the scenes, in terms of crew, in terms of staff. This show is awesome because this is giving young people an understanding of, there's so many opportunities within the church structure to get our message out. And churches, I'm seeing a shift in churches when without getting into the details of it, when my church started to do the production, we realized that we had to invest in equipment. And the church, the pastor understood, okay, well, look, in order for the young people to participate in the ministry of the church from a media perspective, on the media teams, we have to provide them with the resources and equipment that is important to do that. And so churches and pastors, if they're pastors who are listening, invest in the young people in terms of where the ministry will go to expand it. One thing that we learned in this process while the pandemic was going on was that churches are expanding outside the walls now. I mean, it's no longer the structure anymore. And it happened simultaneously. When we were filming about the project, we also saw that churches were expanding outside the walls. So, as an example, one of the interviewees said, hey, look, my church was a small church of about maybe 500, but because of the pandemic, now they're reaching 5, 6, 7,000 because they're not limited to how many they could be sitting in the church. So all that to say, there's so many opportunities for young people to understand how to work with those ministries, or create their own idea, come up with something unique and different as a creative that would say, this is an idea that I was thinking about that nobody else has done, or something I really want to do, and find the tools to do it, to get a ministry out or get their idea out.
Yeah, and just to piggyback off of that, Joe, I have to do a shout out to Pastor Stephen Stewart. He used to be a pastor of First SDA Church of West Palm Beach. He was a great support for me as a young filmmaker. They invested in, like you said, Joe, equipment, and he would let me use it to create. I did a couple of videos for them, whether it was, doing a video for Mother's Day or Father's Day, introduction pastor's video, things like that helped inspire me to keep going. It helped me to grow as a creative. And I also have to mention, I went to a Seventh-day Adventist filmmaking conference once. It's called Sunscreen Ignite. And I don't know if they're still doing it, but they used to hold it in Orlando. A friend of mine at the church told me about it. They had like a 2-day retreat, and it was fantastic. There was so much that information that they gave us there on how to engage an audience, how to use filmmaking in our local churches. And I feel like different things like that actually help us to grow as Adventist filmmakers.
Yeah,
Excellent.
that's
Excellent.
awesome, and I just want to reemphasize that. There are a lot of times our young people and even our own people feel like the Seventh-day Adventist Church isn't doing anything for creatives or for our young people, and many of us could co-sign and say we might not be doing enough or as much as we could be, but there is stuff. Sunscreen has existed for decades now. You know, prior to I guess this COVID thing, and they used to do it out on the West Coast. I know they used to do it up in the Maryland area. I think it began with. I think it was a classmate of ours that helped.
Yes.
Was that Stacia?
Stacia
Doolin.
Doolin.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
Stacia.
So shout out to that vision and that foresight with that. Yeah. Okay. I'm sorry, Dr. Henry. It looked like I cut you off for a second there. Go ahead.
No. I was just taking it all in. But listen, don't we have another clip? I think we got to show that
Oh,
other clip.
right.
We showed one, but there's one more we got to show.
So
Okay,
set that clip up for us. This
Yes.
is, I think, Darlene McCoy. Tell us what was going on in the way you presented that.
Joe, you want to take that one?
Oh yeah, I can take that one. Yes, Darlene McCoy. I have been a fan of hers for many, many years. She is an award-winning gospel singer, and one of the things we realized in this was in the filmmaking process, you want to interview people that people want to see. To be honest, we want to make sure that we get really good speakers and people who have are able to address the audience properly. When you look at a professional film, you want to have people who are professional in the film. So Darlene McCoy was one of our great interviewees. She was awesome, very, very gracious. And we wanted to ask questions about the history of the church and the history of music in the church. So she gives us a great clip here about her experience, and we can watch that.
Excellent.
I remember as a kid, I used to watch my Sunday school teacher. I used to my eyes would be focused on her singing the song, How Great Thou Art, when the senior choir would sing. But I was so focused on my Sunday school teacher because she sang it with passion. She sang it like she knew what she was talking about. And I connected with that. Then sings my soul, my Savior God, to thee. How great thou art, how great thou art. I used to love that.
Wow.
Man.
Nice.
I can't wait. I cannot wait.
Let the church say.
I gotta throw the techie in me is dying over the lighting in that clip. I was like, the lighting. Sorry. Very nice.
That was a long setup.
And I think for so many of our people out there, and I think this needs to be said, is that what you all do, you're not just grabbing a camera and some gear that you bought at Best Buy and going and say, okay, stand right here and let us shoot this thing. That, that clip, what was that? That was about 35, 45 seconds, something like that. That the amount of effort, well, you tell us, how much time went into that 45-second clip?
Walk us through that one.
Yeah. How much time is invested in that? And then I want you, because this is going to segue into another part that we're going to do here, how much time went into creating that clip? And then how much money went in, how much resources, people resources and financial resources went into just that 45-second clip that we saw?
Yeah, so the lighting setup definitely took a while. Me and my cinematographer, Marcus Kyle, we spent a couple hours. I want to say about, was it maybe 2, if not 2.5 hours?
Probably more.
Detailing, making sure that the lighting was perfect, making sure that this shot was going to be incredible. So then, all the time of setting up the shot, and then the interviewee comes in and they sit down and it's making them comfortable. And so we're talking for at least 30 minutes, and that section actually came near the end of the conversation. But even before that, it's days of production. That day we had about 8 or 9 people on set. Everyone needs to be fed. Everyone needs to know what their role is and communicating well. It's a lot of work. Filmmaking takes a lot of work. And even before we got to that day, and I think we shot that in November, we had been working on the project for about 8 months before that. So everything that we do behind the scenes leads up to that moment when we actually say action and we start rolling.
Now, when you say cut, are you done? How much time goes into producing that clip after the camera is turned off? Because I know that, and this is the reason that I'm asking this, is because what we just saw was exceptionally crisp, clear, professional. It was just exceptional in that little clip. And most of us in our local churches, when we want to put something out, our stuff doesn't look like that, right? We're taking a cell phone and we're going to say, okay, we're going to shoot this and then we're going to put this up on the YouTube channel, or we're going to put this in the middle of our church service. I want, and so what we often hand to the world, expecting them to be falling hand over foot in love with what we're talking about, part of what we're talking about has to do with a part of people's willingness to even listen to what we're talking about has a whole lot to do with how we present it to them. Now, that's not to dissuade anybody from understanding that the Holy Ghost can take something and turn it into, whatever, right? He can take water and turn it into wine. But when we put our best foot forward, this is kind of what that looks like. And I want to make sure that our audience today gets a good grasp of what it takes in order to do that. So you shot the clip, you prepped the clip, you prepped the environment, prepped the lights, all that. Then you shot it. And then after that was done, time-wise, about how much in the post-production, time-wise, that went into that 45 seconds?
Yeah. Oh, go ahead, Joe.
No, I was going to take a part of it. One of the things that is very, very important that Rafiq mentioned is the pre-production, is preparing for the interview. So it's the questions that are to be answered. It's booking the talent. And of course, when you have people like the talent that we have, Jacqueline Carr and Darlene McCoy, and people who are very busy, then we have to get on the phone with their representation, schedule a time for them to be there, and then we have to be ready when they get there. And so we set up as Rafiq mentioned, there's a lot of setup, a lot of cameras and crew. And then when we're done, we have to break down. So there's another 2 hours to break down after we say cut and the talent is gone. We still have crew to break down all the equipment. And then we take all of that content and we organize the footage into structured materials, structured bins. And then we go through a post-production process where we extract the voice of the talent that lines up to the film. And that's where we're just about finished with that part of the project. And it's quite a bit of effort, and it takes a lot of organization.
Man, I just felt spanked.
Yeah.
he just exposed us at the PRT. I want you to know that.
Hey, listen,
I'm
Raj,
thinking
as
about
he was talking, I was trying to adjust my lighting.
Listen, I'm thinking about the aspects of you had to master separate the audio, master the audio, mix the audio. You had to color grade the film, do all of that stuff, and the time that puts. And I know that most of our audience has no clue what color grading means, all that kind of stuff. However, those are things that these guys are putting into this project to make it professional and to put it beyond just the ordinary pedestrian stuff, to make it exceptional. And we appreciate, just from these little clips, we appreciate the time and the effort and the energy that you're putting into this. And does this take me to that next question? Was this a good segue?
Yeah, that's a good segue. You asked the question about the money.
Yeah.
So I know a preacher that says the gospel is free, but ministry course. So this is ministry. You asked the question, what did it take in terms of that kind of resource? Joe, when we talked, you talked a little bit about crowdfunding, and talk a little bit about that aspect of it, because a lot of people think, as Pastor Paul said, you just get a camera, turn it on, turn it off, and boom, you have something. But there's more to it than that, and funding has a lot to do with it.
Absolutely. So this project has taken a number of turns. As independent filmmakers, meaning that there's no one to write a big check at the beginning of the project, we have to very carefully strategize the money that we have. Sometimes it takes an investment of our personal funds to get things started. That's typically, when you talk about independent filmmaking, it's the individuals who are investing and having skin in the game to get things started. So we were fortunate to work with. I consider myself very fortunate to work with Rafiq and the team, especially with the resources that SCAD that are available there too, and of course our own production companies, putting up our own equipment, putting up costs to get things started. And then from there, we had to create a budget and get what we called fiscal sponsor, which the fiscal sponsor says, okay, anyone contributing to the project can get a tax deduction on that donation. And so we created a partnership for fiscal sponsorship. And then we did a one-day raise campaign, which the first Tuesday in every December is called Giving Tuesday. And Giving Tuesday is a nationally known opportunity for people to give to any nonprofit. And so by God's grace, we raised almost about $5,000 on Giving Tuesday as part of our kickoff campaign. And then we raised the additional funds in our crowdfunding campaign that ended in the last week of January. So we were able to raise enough money to continue the project and pay for the production costs.
Okay.
Awesome.
So how much money has the General Conference put into this project at this point? Or can you divulge that?
Well, I have to say none thus far.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. This is on the Black Church. I'm sorry. How much has the Office of Regional Conference, the Black Conference, how much have they put into this far? Because if we can match that, we'd love to work on. So what figure are we looking at?
We would love to reach out, and that opportunity is still there. I'll just put it that way. Door is not closed.
Okay, so you haven't received any funding at this point from any of the organized church structures yet for this?
No, I found Pastor Wade, nailed it right there. For this first comment, I have a long history with the Adventist Church. I'll save all of it. But when I was president of the Northeastern Academy Alumni Association in New York, I realized at that time that independent ministry does have to show an initial effort in order for any organized organization to come in. And I think what we want to do here is to prove that we are capable, number one, that we are fiscally responsible. And then that allows us to say, hey, look, you see what we can do as an independent, self-sustaining ministry. What can you do now to support us? And so I think this is a good time to segue into that. We are looking at a possible phase 3 of fundraising for the series. And we're very, very open to talking to other individuals, donors who are interested and like what we're doing to contribute to this. And they can go to our website, www.letthechurchsay.com, and get information about contributing if they would like.
And I think that's the key. I think a lot of us want the church structure to give money, but the structure really is made up of people. And trust me, the people that sit in our pews, they got some dollars, but they're looking for the right project to get into. And sometimes the good projects are not brought before them. And so that's one of the reasons we were excited to bring this project to to the forefront, especially on the Pastors Roundtable. God has blessed the Pastors Roundtable to have some kind of influence around the church structure, and we're hoping that we can partner with you to bring something, bring if not dollars, some notoriety and some opportunities that we do not know of, because we serve a God that owns the cattle on 1,000 hills. That's what they like to say.
That's right.
So we're excited about what you're doing, and wanted to make sure that we understand, we get our viewers get an understanding that this is not something that is just happenstance. There is some dollars that needs to be put in there. There's some work that's happening, and we want to make sure that that is clearly articulated.
That's right.
Yeah, and I think that speaks to the power of the individual. I think it's important to also mention we did get individual pastors who believed in, me as a person believed in Joe, who contributed. But I think sometimes people believe that it's the big organization that's going to fund everything, and it's not the case. It's the individuals. It's people like us who see a dream and want to help bring it to reality.
That's right. All right, I want to make sure we got that. Is that did we get that address correct up there on the screen?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, all right. And so when people go to that website, they will find out, tell us what they're going to find when they tag in that, put in that address.
So that website, letthechurch.com, points to our fiscal sponsor, which is a very reputable major film organization called Film Independent, based in California. And Film Independent, which I'm a member of as a filmmaker, I vote on the films that are nominated for the Independent Spirit Awards, which is a independent filmmaking organization. What they've done is they allow us to work with their fiscal sponsorship to create our page, and that page allows them to get information about the film. They can see the teaser trailer and the fundraising campaign video, and then also they can donate directly through the website, and then they would get a tax deductible receipt from that organization, and then the funds then come to us to use in production. And of course, it's very important to make sure that people who donate know that they are donating through an organization that handles the finances properly, and that when it comes to us, those funds will be used properly for our budget, which is very small. We don't have a big budget, but we do want to make sure we handle our business in decency and in order.
All right. Well, listen, I got to ask this too. So in order to get done, to finish this project and to do everything that the vision that you have for this project, how much do you need? How much do you have left that you let me not say it like that. Let me say it like this. How much would you like to raise in the next month? Let's go with that. So the month of March, when March is done, what would you like to have raised for the month of March?
Well, I would like to, I'll throw out the number there because we just completed our fundraise, and we would like to actually come back and do that again and raise potentially another $10,000 through our partnership with Film Independent. So we felt that this first campaign allowed people to understand what we're doing and understand the quality of the product that's being put out, as you mentioned. And then we can come back and say, now that we've completed phase 2, phase 3 is to raise the additional $10,000 so that we can now get the project out to film festivals. It's very important to partner with film festivals around the country and let the awareness grow, and also conduct any other interviews or expanding to the larger series that we have in mind as well.
Wow, well, that's a blessing. I thought you were going to throw some big figures out there. You only threw $10,000. Dr. Henry, go ahead and write them that check, man. I know you're sitting on that.
Listen, who do I write it to? Who do I write it to, man?
All right.
Well, listen, I tell you, this program definitely has been inspirational. It's letting us know that, we do have some creative ideas, and these ideas are going to go far to motivate people to be involved in the gospel. And my heart goes out to those who are, in the valley of indecision. They just don't know, if the church is relevant. My heart goes out to them. But I believe by this project is going to expose the church, but then it will also motivate people. Let's do more so that we can be a church that speaks to societal issues. Let the church say. I love it.
I have to be honest. When I first saw the title, I just quickly went to the song that Andrew Krause did. But you explained it so well that it's not about saying amen. It's about letting the church talk, letting the church speak, and being young adults yourselves. It was seeing the church of today speaking. Trust me, I have been impressed. I am going to do what I can. I think here at the Pastors Roundtable, we're going to keep your website in front of us. We're going to keep talking it up. We're going to share with others. I want to see this project happen, and I want to see us. Maybe there are members, there are viewers inside of who are watching today who want to see this project come to their local church, maybe come to their city. And so we're going to challenge them to get in contact with you, to help you make this a reality. And even if you can come and talk to other young people, I think that's another opportunity you will have to impact the Black church, is to share your story on how you brought let the church become a reality in people's lives, because that is truly inspirational.
And listen, I sit here, and this is the first time that I've met both of you gentlemen, and I just have to say this. I love your spirit. I love your vision. I love your passion for what you're doing. There's a confidence and yet a humility about you that I think will take you a very, very long ways. And I just want to encourage you and motivate you to keep on. And we're going to, personally, I will visit that site and make sure that I can drop something that will help you towards realizing your vision for that. And so thank you so much. And I want to encourage all of our viewers, my co-hosts, to do the same.
Definitely.
Because we want to make sure that our young people and the people in our church who have these ideas and have these visions, that they have the support of the family. So thank you so much.
Thank you
for having us on.
Our pleasure.
Listen, gentlemen, I want to know what's on our program next week.
Well, listen. We had a long conversation, and this is our 23rd episode of our season 2.
Is it 23 already?
Yes, sir.
So y'all been having meetings without me. Y'all been counting. My goodness. Wow. 23.
So we are going to announce that this is our season finale. And we're just so glad to have Let the Church be the season finale. Isn't that something interesting?
Oh, wow.
We have a season finale. And we're going to take a break, but we are planning to be back here the second weekend in April. The second weekend in April, we'll begin our brand new season 3 of the Pastors Roundtable.
April. So we're taking the whole month
season
of March.
3.
Is that it? That's the whole month
Man,
of March?
I don't know if we can stay off for the whole month of March, Raj. The whole month?
The whole month? Y'all going on vacation?
We have some good things being planned, and we need some time to do it. But we do have some plans to be more engaged in the group and to also do a couple of lives on a couple of weekends. So you'll still hear us, but our season 3 will begin the second weekend of April. So we're looking forward to that date.
All right. And listen, when we come back, we're not going to start at 3 p.m. Eastern.
Oh, that's right.
I think we're going to begin at 4 p.m. Eastern because the time will change.
That's right.
But I think we got to still let our audience know, what's happening during that time. So you may see us pop on maybe during the week or something just to say hello.
Page. If you follow that page,
follow the page.
Or subscribe, and you'll see when we go on. Because I'm thinking we've had some great discussions this season that
Yes.
I kind of would love to come back on and kind of debrief on some of them.
Well, stay tuned. You know you'll see us in the social media world. But listen, guys, we did not share with them the newest offering of the Pastors Roundtable.
No, we sure didn't. And what is it?
What is it?
The Pastors Roundtable has a podcast.
Oh, that's right.
Okay.
We are podcasting now and on Spotify and Apple and those, so you can go and find the Pastors Roundtable, which is actually our shows that we do each Saturday, but you won't be able to do the video, but you at least can hear the conversation and download it and listen to it and re-listen and re-listen and re-listen and be encouraged. I think this episode today is one of those episodes you want to listen to again and again to be inspired. You want to share it with so many young adults, with other young adults, with other people. Let them know that the relevant church is alive and well here in the Black church in particular, alive and well, and is being relevant to the society.
All right.
Well,
Raj, we're gonna try to get this together, get this right on the last finale of the season. Then I feel
Listen,
bad. I didn't know
again, thank you to Rafiq and Joe. I'm extremely proud, Joe. You know, we have done a lot of things in the local church. It's such a joy to see what you're doing here, and you have introduced us to Rafiq, and so we look forward to what God is going to do down the road with this project and other projects. I know this is not the end. There are some other things that you want to do, so we want to lift up the name of Jesus on your behalf.
And
but we want
one
to
of those
thank
shirts,
all
Joe.
of you.
I want a shirt.
yes, I am.
Okay.
Yes,
I thank you for joining us here at the Pastors Roundtable, where we aim to help you keep ministry relevant,
Resourced.
And real.
Take
God
care,
bless.
everybody.
I believe the church, in regards to having a voice of morality for the Black community and the racial tension in America, I believe they still have it, but it's not amplified.
Shut it down! If we don't get it, shut it down!
Black Lives Matter, that movement is amplified.
Till we get it! Shut it down!
If you talk about the 50s, yes, the church had it. Now it's weakened because as a church, we're not supposed to talk about social issues. Despite what the state says about separation between state and church, we're supposed to talk about that because Jesus himself was an activist.